Well, welcome to the Stoned Roadie podcast. This is the one you don't want to miss. It stars Greg Reed, the Stoned Roadie, and Griff, the rocket scientist. Let's not forget Captain Galaxy and all the old friends come along. Lord Willie, talking Skinner, and leaving you with a song.
Podcast 95 action. Alrighty then, looky here. It's another edition of the Stoned Roadie cast. This is podcast 95, and I'm your host, the Stoned Roadie, Craig Reed, and this is my co-host, the rocket scientist, Griff Martin. And today we have the first alternate drummer from the 1991 tour, Kurt CUSTER. And why don't you just take it away from here, Griff?
Yeah, hey, what a great podcast this is going to be with Kurt CUSTER. A lot of people have been asking for Kurt CUSTER, and what a great history he has. I was looking at a little bio on Kurt. Looks like he did some touring with Kansas, Night Ranger, the Romantics. Of course, he did the Copperhead Road with Steve Earle, and he is really good friends with Steve Earle, David Geffen. And I was looking at a pretty cool video of you, Kurt, and you were doing Stormbringer tribute, Lazy. I was digging that, man. That drum, I love that song, Lazy. But yeah, hey, it's great to have you on here, Kurt. And of course, this is a Lynyrd Skynyrd fan page, and you were with Lynyrd Skynyrd, post Lynyrd Skynyrd, post plane crash, and you got a lot of great stories. Kurt and I had a great talk on the phone for probably a couple hours there not too long ago, and he told me some stuff, man, that'll just rock you guys' world. That you people that like the skin formation. So, and you were really great friends with Ed King too. So, why don't we go back, Kurt, and talk about a little bit about your upbringing? Like, where were you from? Where'd you grow up at?
Well, I grew up in Carson, California. It's a little oil town right near Long Beach, and by the beach. So definitely used to love to surf and do all that stuff growing up. But Beatles was really for me what got me into music when I was just a little kid, seeing them on TV.
Seems like I was reading something about your family was pretty musical too, and they kind of wasn't they? Yeah. A lot of music in the house.
Yeah, I was the youngest of five, and all my older brothers and sister, they all played, guitar, bass, piano.
You play guitar too. I mean, I've seen some video of you playing guitar.
Yeah, I play guitar.
What got you started in the drums?
Just early on, I can remember around two or three pulling out pots and pans from underneath the stove there, and playing on them. And then by the time I was like 4 or 5, I was taking around those old soda pop cartons, those wood ones, Pepsi, and I was making drums out of those, and I was walking around to all the people in the cul-de-sac and playing my little wood box. So that just for some reason the drums and rhythm just really got me from a young age. But
when did you get your first drum kit? How old were you, do you think you were when you first got your drum kit?
So my first kit, actually, aside from my digging out my brother's shambled kit, between 5 and 8, was when I was 8. For that Christmas, I remember 1972. I got a Liverpool Special.
Oh wow!
Got me Liverpool Special from Toys R Us, and it was great. Gold sparkle. I had a tom snare, floor tom, a couple of the cymbal hi-hat. It was great. I still remember playing that really loud on Christmas, and my grandma having a fit.
So did you hook up with a neighborhood band, and you guys had a garage band or something going?
Yeah, me and my brother, my next to older brother Paul, was a guitar player and writer, and him and I would write together. And we found a few bass players, and yeah, we used to play around down there. We were called Quinine,
Oh,
and
cool.
so
So
what year?
what year do you think that was, Kurt?
Between '76 and probably 1980.
And did you like already up on stage and you guys had gigs and things like that?
Yeah, house parties. House parties were the thing back then, and we played a lot of those. Or we were starting to get a reputation around town, and then we started playing some gigs in Gardena and stuff, which was real popular. Some of the Asian clubs that were around at the time, and in San Pedro. So, and then we changed our name to The Turn, which was a bit more psychedelic and a little bit more. And then Mike Corcio, who actually became the bass player for the Salvation Army and the 3 O'Clock, he was our bass player for a while. So that was kind of cool. You might know Mike from the 3 O'Clock. They were pretty big. They had a couple of.
And so were you guys like, already familiar with Lynyrd Skynyrd and Southern rock and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I mean we were. I was lucky. I had the best influences of music. I mean, it ran the gamut. From jazz, Miles Davis, Wayne Shorter, Art Blakey, to rock music, Jimi Hendrix, Beatles, Cream, Zeppelin. I mean, this is the stuff that I grew up with. Queen. I got to meet those guys when I was just about 16. So that was kind of cool. Just playing around the area and kind of making a name for ourselves.
So who was kind of like your drummer hero that you think maybe you learned your style from, or you kind of helped you make your own style?
Well, it's hard to narrow it down to one. But early on, of course, it's Ringo, and I'm a big Ringo fan. Nobody has a groove like Ringo and can shuffle like Ringo. And of course, Mitch Mitchell. I'm a huge Mitch Mitchell fan. He was a big influence on me. Of course, John Bonham. Roger Taylor from Queen was a big influence on me. Real big. Like I saw those guys 5 times. Got to meet them. Got to talk to him on the phone. My sister saw him at the airport in 1980 and ran him down. She used to work for UTA Airlines, my sister. And he was coming through and, aren't you Roger Taylor? And he goes, oh, yes, sugar. That's right. And I do a better Roger Taylor. Hold on, it'll come out. and my sister goes, you have to call my brother. He's the biggest fan, So sure enough, hello, Kurt, it's Roger Taylor. How are you? He was great. Cool. They were doing the Flash Gordon album, and so I remember the date. It was October 20th, 1980.
Wow, that's coincidental, huh?
Yes.
So, people don't know that was the plane crash date in '77 for Lynyrd Skynyrd.
3 years earlier. Yeah. So I'll never forget it because I was just so elated. I talked to him for like 25 minutes. He told me, I'm renting. Well, I'm trying to look for a house up above the Whiskey. Do you know the Whiskey a Go-Go? I'm like, oh yeah, no, I know it. And
had you already met Ed King?
No. I didn't meet Ed. Ed and I had pretty much just a phone relationship for the first year. He called me in like February or March of 1990. That's when I got the first call. And then we just kind of built a friendship over the phone for 6 months until I joined the band. It took some time to actually join the band.
So he was actually a fan of yours then. He'd seen you play.
He heard Copperhead Road. I did that for Steve, and I did I Feel All Right. I did 2 albums for Steve, but that was after Skynyrd. But he heard Copperhead Road. He heard the snare drum for Even When on Blue. There's a song on the album called Even When on Blue. And I start the song with a pah, like a big flam. And Ed was in a record store in New Jersey, and he heard that and went, "Who is that?"
Wow.
Walked
cool
up to the guy, and the guy went, "Yeah, it's a guy named Custer." And so when Ed kind of knew Steve, and right, and and that guy Custer. So that's how that all came about, because Steve goes, "Yeah, he's not doing anything right now. You might give him a call."
And why do you think that was? Was that because Artemis was having trouble with his leg back then at the time, because of his motorcycle accident, or why were they needing a drummer?
I think that was one of the reasons, but I think the guys were kind of seeing just a general decline on his playing ability at the time, and I think they needed a jump start, not just somebody to play the drums, but somebody that had songwriting or an arrangement experience. Because as Bill Graham used to tell me, "Kurt, you're great for this band. You've got good energy. You arrange well. I loved Bill Graham." I'll say that right now. I loved it.
You got a cool story about him and Billy Powell. I don't know if you want to tell that. We'll do that later. But
yeah, well, that's directly from Billy. And everything I put in my book is really not from me. Some of it's from my perspective, but everything I know and mention in my book, which we'll discuss later, what I was given to me, from the guys.
So when you got the call to when they were seriously entertaining, bringing Kurt Custer in, and they brought you in to meet the guys in the band for Skynyrd, where were the guys at when would they fly you in somewhere and you had to sit down with them, or what happened?
Yeah, so when it finally happened, after 6 or 7 months of talking to Ed, the time was finally right, and he said, "Hey, I've got a plane ticket for you." It was like a couple of days before, and I just went, "Oh, great. Okay." And I packed a bag and took a connector, I forget where, in Atlanta, I think, and then flew on down to Jacksonville. And Clayton picked me up, Clayton Johnson. And I'll never forget this, when we got in the car and he goes, "Well, you're in fucking Lynyrd Skynyrd now. Your life just changed."
Before you got there, had you already been brushing up on your Skynyrd?
Oh, yeah. I was listening. I'm a big fan of Second Helping. I just love that album.
Oh, yeah, me too.
But I love Nothing Fancy. And the first one, it's hard because I love them all. And I'm really actually and I used to tell Artemis this. I don't think he ever believed me, but I love his playing on Nothing Fancy. I love Nothing Fancy. That's really a dark horse album. It's really got some great performances and songs on there. But anyway, I mean, I'm a big Second Helping fan, so I was really honing in on MCA and stuff like that, and not just the rhythm section, but Alan. I felt like when I joined the band, I had to make a connection with those that were gone. So the first thing I had Clayton do was drive to the cemetery. And he went, "What?" He thought that was weird.
Okay.
But I didn't think it was weird. And actually, and by the end of it, he didn't think it was weird. He thought it was great. He was like, "Wow, paying homage to the heroes." But I felt like I had to kind of, "Is it okay?" Ronnie and Steve over there. That was at the place in Orange Park. Of course, Alan that's where everybody's at now, right? Where Alan.
Yeah.
And, but I always, I would dream about Alan occasionally, and that's how we would communicate, Alan and I, like in my dreams. It's really
so let's go back to the day when you walked into the room and there's all your Lynyrd Skynyrd heroes. Were you like kind of freaking out, or was it pretty much sinking in by then? I mean, here's some guys, and these are rock legends, and you walk in and they're all giving you the stink eye, like, okay, we know he's good, but let's see what he's got.
Of course. So there's always that, but it wasn't like that, Griff. I wish I could say it was, but we finally get over there. Clayton gets us over to the mall, like Craig mentioned. Remember the mall, Craig? Love the mall. Yeah. And the mall was great. So we finally get over there, and I walk in, and Gary wasn't there. Dale wasn't there. There was a few people that weren't there. Randall wasn't quite there yet. He may have been there. actually. But Billy and Leon, Ed, of course, were all there. Johnny wasn't quite there yet. I don't think Johnny was there that first day. And they're watching bloody. I walk in, and yeah, and there was that kind of intimidating, a little bit, right? And I walk in, I'm like, but I was cocky and confident in what I could do and what I could bring to the table too. So I was ready to do that. And but I walk in, and so I'm expecting that kind of very thing, the right.
Yeah.
Like that. Leon and Billy are they're over there watching Warner Brothers cartoons, my favorite. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Yosemite Sam. So I walk right over to them, and we introduce. Hey, how's it going, Billy? Hey, how you doing? Billy is great. Billy's good friend of mine. Miss him dearly. But
so they made you feel right at home.
Oh yeah, I sat down and we were watching. We were all laughing, all three of us. And then I think Randall got there and hey, how's it going? And and he goes, "See, you made yourself at home." I was like, "Oh yeah, I love it." And then we just kind of started playing a little bit, and all of us, kind of played. And then I remember, I go, "Well, we were jamming a little bit." And I remember going, "Well, what about the original stuff? What do you got? What do you got here?" I was ready because I love original music and creating and
so you and Ed were like already pretty good buddies before you got there, right? I mean, had you already met him?
No, so that was really there at the studio that night. I go, hey, I finally get to meet and he was great. Ed was in a little bit of a different place right then, so he was known as Crab King, but he wasn't too crabby then. Although Billy used to say Crab King, and Leon would just laugh. But my favorite thing was not just the relationship with Ed, and then finally meeting him and being able to play. And he was just ecstatic because we were jamming it out for that like hour or two before Gary got there. And we were really, we had actually put together Backstreet Crawler, Song of Randall's. And by chance, I just sped it up at the end because I wanted to. And Randall loved it. He goes, "Oh, we got to do that." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do that. Let's tag that on the end." So I remember doing that, and we'd actually finished that song. And then Gary came in. And Craig, I think it was you. Craig had his guitar. Gary just walked in and looked over at me, and he pointed at me, and we were all kind of commiserating, talking, ready because we had just finished a tune. And Gary had nothing but timing. Gary was all about timing. And we were done, and Gary walks in, and Craig puts his hat, right? Puts his guitar on. Blues jam on 4, ready, go. And that's what we did.
So you hadn't even had a conversation with Gary yet. You just had to go to work.
He goes, "Blues jam on 4, go, 2, 3, 4." And I did this 6/8 thing, and he loved it. He looked at me and did that little smile. And you're gonna 6/8 me, huh? I like it. 6/8 time. A true blues guy over here. So he loved it. He was wailing, doing his thing. And we did some cool stuff, and it was great. And then we boom, boom, I ended on cue. Right? And Gary reached over the set and goes, "You're hired."
Oh wow. That had to be a good feeling, huh?
Yeah, it was great.
Was there any like one guy out of the band that you kind of gravitated to, you kind of like hung out with, or you got along better than anybody, you think?
Well, aside from Ed, because it'd probably be Ed King. I mean, he was like a big brother, almost like a dad figure for me. So I mean, Ed and I talked about everything. He was like a good sounding board for me, and creative. We would write together, hang out, party together, go do things, eat. We love to eat. So we always were eating and stuff. But I got to say, really, I mean, I love Gary too, because I used to love to hang out with Gary. He just was so charismatic and had such an aura about him.
I was going to say, I remember you hanging around with Gary a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hung out with Gary a lot. I used to go to his house. We wrote a lot too, and we would hang out and sometimes we would eat.
So you packed your bags and then you moved to Florida, Jacksonville. Then, right?
Basically, yeah. I still lived in Cali here in LA because I had my girlfriend Nikki, which that's a great story of Craig picking her up from the airport. My next time I went down there, but I'll get to that in a minute. But that was it. Yeah, I mean, I went back that night with Ed, and Ed goes, "Well, I got some news for you." I go, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Well, Gary wants you to, do the record." I go, "Oh, great, okay," because that's what I really signed on for. He goes, "But he wants you in the band. You blew him away." I guess he was telling Craig and who the fuck is this guy? Like Gary couldn't believe how cocky I was, and just ending on cue. And because we played more music too after that. Gary and I were doing some cool stuff, some little some cool shit. Gary's doing some riffy. He goes, "Hey, I like that. That's good. I like," he'd always point, "That's good shit," So we really hit it off too. But he was telling Lou, I guess, and Clayton, who the fuck is this guy? Where'd you find this fucking guy from? Like Gary just couldn't fucking believe it, And Clayton was like, "Fuck, dude, you fit like a glove. You're goofy like these guys. I always kind of gravitated to the other bus though, Leon, Billy, Randall, Ed, then later. But I'd have to say I really cherished my relationship with Billy though a lot. Billy and I did some great stuff together, not just musical and artistic wise, but comedic wise. Billy was one of the best people I've ever met, man.
Had to be pretty cool for Ed King to have a fellow Californian there amongst all the southern rednecks. Those guys are a little crazy, and like Ed used to say, he wasn't digging the violence all the time. So you California guys aren't into that violent stuff.
Well, I don't think it's that. It just depends on who you talk to and their experiences. I know Ed wasn't really keen on that, although Ed can get
hold his own
sometimes. Yeah. I mean, look at backstage at Guitars and Stars, Paul Abraham's club. That was funny when Billy was in between songs. He was doing that. God. That was the best. That was the funniest thing. Ed got so mad backstage. He was the funniest. I had to leave because I was laughing so hard. And Gary was pissed too. "What the fuck, man? What the fuck are you doing?" Gary was pissed because he was. Remember that, Craig? Billy was doing that in between. So mad. So it could, Ed could kind of go there too, even though he says he didn't like violence. Ed could be violent. We all could be our state.
So the band they were basically getting along pretty good. I mean, it wasn't like the old Skynyrd, all that hell raising and fighting and the bloodbath and all of that. It was.
Oh well, not. I mean, there were moments. Oh yeah, there was some crazy times. Gary and Johnny not getting along. Ed and Johnny not getting along. Whatever was being thrown. Johnny busting into my room, checking to see where his girlfriend was.
Oh wow,
that was interesting. One night.
Where about Artimus? Where was Artimus in this collaboration here?
Well, Artemis was only with us for those first, from November 90 to, from when I got there, October to November 90 to June, I think it was, maybe May or June of 91. The tour started in April, so he was only maybe May, I want to say.
Yeah.
Actually, so he was only out for about I want to say 2 weeks, 3 weeks before he made his exit.
Yeah.
So just for the purpose of trying to understand why we had Kurt Custer and Artimus Pyle together, it was, I guess, people don't realize Artimus had trouble keeping up, maybe because of his injuries or whatever. So what was the I guess the role that you played playing with Artimus? How did that work?
So initially it was, he's going to play some songs, you're going to play some songs. I'm like, okay, that's great. But you're going to play on the record. I'm like, okay. There was some slippery slope there because they hadn't exactly been too forthright with Artemis about what was going to occur on the record. And he found out later, and I know he got upset about that he wasn't going to actually play a lick of drums on the 91 record. That's all me. He did the percussion on the album, but I think there was, like I said, it was a little bit of a slippery slope. So I'm not sure he, got a fair shake on that end. However, when I first joined, we had the double drum thing, and it was fine. I actually kind of dug it. It was kind of neat. We did those Vegas shows and those shows in California at the end of 90, and we had tried it out. And it worked. It was really kind of cool. But I was noticing, the songs I was kind of helping him on, that he would goof, and they would all turn around and look at me.
You were taking the blame for it.
I was kind of taking the blame for it. So I by April, it was getting to be enough. I was kind of done with it. So I go, it's not me, but at the same time, I got to say this. It's not that Artie couldn't play. I think it was mainly a lot of it was just in his head. I think he was just overdoing it or whatever, or trying to overachieve. I'm not sure, but I think a lot of it was in his head. Not necessarily.
What I remember when all that went down, because Artemis did that the very first 87 tribute tour thing, and he did that whole thing. And then when we came together and it was going to be a full-fledged tour, because that first one was supposed to only be a few gigs, and then we came together, it was a full-fledged tour. Artemis didn't feel comfortable about being able to do the whole thing. He admitted that he'd been hurt, and he just said, I'm just not strong enough to do it, and we need to bring somebody in, and I just need help. And then that's when I guess Ed called Custer and was brought on. But from what I remember, Artemis was willing to take the role as just being the percussionist and letting Custer be the drummer, and Artemis was just going to play, all the percussion stuff, all the bells and whistles that go. But
yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
that's okay. It actually didn't go down that way. However, it wasn't actually like that, because I think, Artie was really upset when they started taking songs from him. He really played on some of these songs, and he had every intent. And I think he thought he was probably going to do some of the record, because I think that's where some of the animosity came. But and rightly so. I mean, Artie and I had some great times. I got to say, those first few months in the band, we would go out late at night, go to the beach in his 4x4, and we had some really good times. Him and I. He's a drummer, so he gets me, and I get him.
So you guys had worked out, like, Artie would do certain songs and then you would do certain songs. And is that what way it went?
Yeah. Yep.
And what were the songs that Artie did? You remember the ones that he did and the ones that you did?
Yeah. He would do like, maybe you got that right, that smell. He would do, I ain't the one. I would do some of the other ones like I did Freebird because it was just so grueling. We kind of both did it too for a while there.
My Saturday Night Special, because that was kind of his song.
Artie did Saturday Night Special at first because that was his baby. I did I did Alabama. I did some of the other oldies. What's Your Name? Actually, I think I did that one. I did I think at first Artie did I Know a Little, but they gave it to me. They actually gave me that song. And then of course I did all the new record, the 91 songs. So that's how that came about.
And we were talking earlier, and it kind of like, the people that are listening to this podcast and the deep rooted Skynyrd fans, they kind of know about the Canada thing. And we were talking early about that. And I was saying, Craig, do you really want to talk about that? And Craig's like, yeah, let's do it. So we want to kind of get into that story about what happened there and just tell the whole thing. So what do you remember about that, Kurt? I know we've heard Craig's part of that, but you got a really good, interesting
so what
version.
happened is just leading up to that incident in Toronto in June, early June, late May, whenever it was, 91. The band had slowly been taking some songs from ARTIMUS. What's Your Name was Now Mine. One of the other songs already played on, and I think they gave me That Smell, which kind of hurt him too because he loved that song. And really, his drum parts on that song are phenomenal. They're just so good and tasty. And so it had been building to that incident in June, and I don't think he was particularly happy with what he was seeing was happening on the road again. I think he was getting disillusioned a lot about everybody partying again and all that shit. And I was just kind of dabbling in it at the time. I wasn't full bore yet, but I think he was really disillusioned by that. And then by the time we got to Toronto for that show, and I know he was sort of alienating himself too. I could tell the last week or two, I could tell he was really kind of alienating himself. Just in talking to him, because that's all I can go by, he was getting frustrated. So, and it was tough for him. Tough for me too. I was in a tough situation because I know there was probably some resentment there for me, and
right,
obviously. So I know where he was coming from. But we would still talk, and he'd tell me, okay, Cuz, I just more and more, I just feel like detached from this. I could remember some of the conversations we'd have. Come on, man. Look, we got the double drum thing going. I think it's great. Sounds good. We would work out some cool drum parts, Artie and I, on some of the songs. It was quite fun, actually. Then that day, we get up to Toronto, and of course we had to take the long bus ride from downtown Toronto out there to wherever I forget the name of that place. But 2-hour bus ride out there, 2.5. And we get out there, and the crews come up, and they're like, "Hey, Artie, you don't want to mess with him. He's not doing good." Da 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 da. I look up on the scaffolding up there, and there's Artie just sitting there with a fifth, like half drunk already. Like it was actually 2/3 gone.
Oh wow!
I went, oh, uh-oh. So I think by the time we got on stage, he was really done. And as the snake, we had a big, this 91 snake, the silver snake. It's really cool emblem. And we had that come down with the smoke and it was very, very dramatic and very. And we used to love that part, especially Artie and I, because we, it was right behind the double drums, and we were kind of like, look at us up there, look at our big double drum world up there. And he leaned in and he went, "Goodbye, Cuss." So I went, oh boy, I don't think
this can't be good.
This can't be good. And we get out there, and about 3 songs in or 4 songs in, I think it was, I just remember the song "Southern Women" off the '91 record. I don't know why that sticks in my head, but I think that's the song, because he was percussion at first, and then he came down to the kit. He started playing with me, but it was, he just lost it. And drums started flying, and this is all in front of 25,000 people up there in Toronto. And the crowd is just, they're like aghast. They're like, you can hear the crowd. You could actually hear them, like the whole crowd just like held its collective breath. And he finally threw a cymbal or a tambourine at Gary, a snare drum that nearly hit Dale, and I had to jump over because he jumped out at Gary, and I had to get between them. I'm like, hey, come on, man. What, and Gary went, "Get him out of here." And I kind of when I went to get Gary, and I looked, Craig and Lou or Paul had grabbed him, and all I saw were legs going into the darkness. I did not see him again. That was it.
And then he was gone for good.
He was gone. That was it. And then I went, oh God. So I turn, I get back up on the drum riser, and Clayton Johnson goes, "It's all you, man. Go do it. You're the drummer of Lynyrd Skynyrd now." I'm like, whoa.
So what was the feel like in the audience now once they drug Artimus?
The crowd was noisy at this point. What the fuck? They're like, people are yelling shit. They're very well mannered up there, so nobody's throwing shit or anything like that. But you can hear people are getting kind of restless, and what the fuck's this guy gonna do now?
Yeah, it was a bonus of entertainment for the crowd.
There was a little bit bonus of entertainment for the crowd, because I think people were like, I just remember looking at the very top where you could walk up there, where they had the restaurants or the little, and I could see, some people walking up there, but it wasn't really packed. Everybody was in their seats because they wanted to see what was going on. And I just remember going, "You got to kill it. You got to finish this set out. Even the oldies, kill it." And we did. We killed it. And the fans were great. I remember jumping out there, and Johnny actually went, "Cuss, you count him now. You count him from now on." I go, "Okay, 1, 2, because at times we would, we didn't bow right, or, so I started doing it. 1, 2, 3. And we all, and it was great. We got a roar from the crowd, and came back and of course did Freebird, the best encore in the world that nobody can match. And that was
so
it.
Then it was 3 years of Kurt Custer as the drummer.
Yeah, and another album, The Last Rebel, and a live album. I think there was a what's a bootleg, but it was pretty popular. You got that right. It was called. And of course, several other Incarnation albums that they've put together over the years here that I've played on now. The Lynyrd Skynyrd lighter, with the lighter on. I forget what it's called, but I'm on that one. I'm on probably a few other ones that I probably aren't aware of.
So within that 3-year period of time that you were with them, is there anything that sticks out in your mind as like maybe several things that stick out in your mind as some of the best experiences you had, like any venues that you look back on that were really cool?
Well, my favorite had to be Cuyahoga, because it was loud. That amphitheater there outside of Cleveland was
that's right here where I live.
Yeah. Thanks, Craig. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All wood. It's all wood, so it's really loud. But the acoustics are great because it is all wood.
It's an orchestra thing. That's where they have the Cleveland Orchestra plays there.
Like a clamshell kind of a venue thing.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. That sticks out to me. The Omni in Atlanta, I got to say that really sticks out. Spectrum in Philly. I love Nassau Coliseum and that '93 tour. We killed it. That place was, I don't know how many people were in that damn place. I want to say like 30,000 people. I mean, and then to stay right across the street, open my curtains and look at Nassau Coliseum and go, yeah, we rocked your ass. That was great.
So a lot of the people that played with Skynyrd, I guess you got to meet a lot of really cool bands, that opened up for Skynyrd, and anybody in particular that you got to know, or anybody that any stories from any of those guys you can share with us?
Well, actually, I mean, we had some really good bands. Junkyard, those guys were really cool. We had Driving and Crying for a while. Those guys were great. Pull up in their station wagons, fill of gear and stuff. Those guys were great, man. We got along with kind of all of our acts, but I think the main act that I really enjoyed was Bad Company, because I looked up to Simon Kirke, and I looked up those from the Free days. I'm a big Free freak, and so meeting him and befriending him and Mick Ralphs and Brian and everyone was just phenomenal for me, and we would hang out. I mean, me and Simon actually hung out, wrote songs together. He's a great guitar player, and in his own right, Simon Kirke. I'd have to say Bad Company. Stories. The stories that I just remember is him bowing to me at every show. Him to me, but I always had to beat him to it and go bow to him. So I had to start showing up at before the shows and make sure he saw me take my hat off and bow to him, because he was God to me, of course, back then. He would share a lot of Free stories on what those guys did, and Kossoff, because I'm a huge Kossoff freak. I love the way he played.
Yeah, so was Gary Rossington. Yeah,
that was one thing that really kind of made Gary and I get along really well. We had a lot of similar guitar heroes, and Kossoff was one of them. Of course, Angus Young too, and there's some other great ones that are But so those guys, we would just hang with them occasionally. They were pretty low key. I think we kind of corrupted them a little bit. I hate to say, but I think we did.
I could see where that would happen.
So I have to butt in with the Cuss's most memorable things. I remember some of those antics on the bus with you and Billy and Randall and Paul and everybody. You guys got pretty wild. Had some fun times. Yeah.
No, we did. We if we were looking at video from the night before, we would just start laughing at certain parts of what people were doing and the looks on their faces. We got into some goofy shit. We really did. Or cartoons, or channel surfing, which Billy and I really love to do. Switching channels so fast that it puts sentences together. How bored we were. But the sentences we would put together, oh no, you can't do this, cocaine. What? We would start rolling at some of the sentences we would put together by doing that. But yeah, just crazy stuff. Leon getting crazy. I used to love to watch Billy and Leon personally. It was like Abbott and Costello, who's on first. I mean, seriously, those two would. But Billy, I didn't say that. You fucking did say that. That's what you said. What I'm trying to say is, I know what you were saying, but that's not what you said, Leon. It's so funny the way those two, they were like a married couple.
Well, Kurt, while we're on that topic, I'm going to jump over here to some of the questions that these guys are asking off the Facebook page. There's a good friend of mine, John Reinheimer, and he's elaborating on that. He's asking, hey, ask Kurt what he thought about Randall Hall's spot-on impression of Billy Powell.
So
everybody liked to imitate Billy.
Oh, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Yeah, Billy was a character. Billy and Randall, of course, did a great. Randall and Billy were very close. I can remember one of my early drives back from the mall, and I forget how I got stranded there or something one night, and they, come on, we'll take you back. And what a hoot riding with those two, man, too. Those guys are crazy, man. Fun. But no, Randall and I got along just splendidly. Because I can tell Randall was coming from, even though Randall was there in Jacksonville and Alan was his protege, or vice versa. I'm probably saying it wrong, but Alan kind of got him into the group and everything. But I always felt that Randall and I had a connection because we were still, no matter what, still a little outsider, new blood. As much as he was entrenched in the whole Jacksonville thing, we were still new blood. And I think he always felt a little bit of a disconnect, I think, because I don't think he spoke up enough as much as he wanted to, I will say. But Randall and I our love for Jimi Hendrix and, of course, Beatles and other stuff. Randall and I would sit and talk music all night. And but Randall had the best faces too. He'd make these faces, and he would do great Billy. He would do a lot of great impressions, actually.
I'm going to pull another question out of here. Lady by the name of TP. Every drummer's style is different. What made yours stand out to capture Lynyrd Skynyrd's attention, you think, Kurt?
Really good question. I actually saw that, and I probably didn't answer because I was hoping you would ask it on here. I think hearing me drum with Steve Earle is what captured Ed's attention. Steve Earle being very Ronnie Van Zant-esque in his lyric style and his lyric delivery, and to Ed King, the best lyricist since Ronnie Van Zant. So I think Ed was able to convince those guys, that, hey, you got to listen to this guy, man. He plays behind the beat, really gets into it. He arranges, he writes, he sings. And I think the drumming style that I bring as a song drummer, it's just probably because it comes from a lot of different avenues, not just being a drummer or a rhythmist. It's being, playing guitar, playing piano, being a vocalist. All of that kind of help to make you a more well-rounded musician, so you can kind of hear everything better, if that makes sense.
We had somebody ask, Keith Jr. Ricketts, Ed King always said Kurt Custer was his favorite Skynyrd drummer to play with. I'd like to hear him talk about Ed and his relationship with Kurt.
So, as I said before, it's a good question too, or just a good inquiry. Ed was like a big brother, like a dad. We would sit and listen to music a lot. He turned me on to some Jackson Browne. I would turn him on to funny bands like the Mentors and stuff like that. And he just loved it. And I think Ed and I shared like bizarre comedy. We loved just bizarre comedy, Animal House, stuff like that. Ed was real big on that, like I was. Kind of humor with no punchline. We were real big on that. And I think we just had a lot of similarities. We liked a lot of the same stuff, liked a lot of the same feel and guitar pickers, through the years, and that were our favorites. that's kind of, so we recorded together. We'd hang out. Like I said, we'd eat and laugh about shit. I think one thing about Ed is he had an awareness that was probably more so than the other guys in terms of like future stuff. Ed would look ahead a lot, and I think that's why he was. That made him kind of. Plus, you got to admit the guy could play, man. I mean,
Yeah.
the other guys couldn't. I love Randall's playing a lot. Gary's playing a lot, although Gary had, diminished a little bit at that point, by the time I had gotten in the band. He was starting to have some trouble, but he could still rip it when he wanted to. But Ed, I had Ed in my monitor. I had 10,000 watts behind me, no earplugs, no shirt, no shoes, no socks, a pair of shorts, Everlast shorts. That's all.
Knowing what you know now about Ed King, you got to know him really well. And what do you think was the appeal that Ronnie Van Zant had for Ed King to bring him into the original band back then? I mean, you knew Ed better than anybody, man. What do you think was it? I mean, I kind of get a feeling like Ed King was very tactical, and he probably brought a lot of, I think, structure to the band, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that Ed always told me was that him and Ronnie used to change ownership of the band a lot back in the day. Ronnie would go, you know what, you take care, you handle shit now. And
Yeah,
Ed would.
cool.
And yet then Ronnie would get drunk and get pissed at Ed for doing just that. So I think there was some animosity there, but Ed was still willing to just go along with everything because he loved Ronnie, had respect for Ronnie, even though I think Ed was growing tired of because Ronnie, like he said, was two people, nicest guy in the world, and in a sense, like Johnny, in a sense, Johnny could be very charming, really good guy. You just talk to him and he's not drinking. But once they drink, there's just some people like that. I mean,
I'm sure.
When I started with the band, they was talking about who was in charge. When I started with the band, Ed was the one that handed everybody their $5 a day per diem.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, so that what I'm saying is accurate. I know there was a lot of transference going on in 75, late 74, 75, especially because, just when Ronnie would give him full tilt boogie to go do, take care of things, Ronnie would yank it back. And so I think, but what allured Ronnie to Ed was his playing. He could chicken pick like nobody. His rhythm feel was second to none because you have to be a great rhythmatist too. Ed was a great rhythmatist. He didn't bring just very quirky, very far out leads like from a Strawberry Alarm Clock day. I mean, Ed had a style. I tried to emulate people who had a style too. Like when you hear Ed King, that's Ed King playing guitar. I tried to be similar. If you heard Custer, that's Custer playing drums. That's Randall Hall. That's Gary Rossington, playing guitar. So, he had a style that I know Ronnie and him and Ronnie got on real well in terms of how they would write songs. They would just crank them out because they understood each other musically. They understood each other. They met way back in 69, I think, when he was with Strawberry Alarm Clock. They were touring down there in Jacksonville. And Ed had some really cool stories about those guys. Ronnie playing, doing the hand slapping and, just in his shorts, half naked, doing this, I'm going to do this whole stuff. Ed was like, hey, from this Southern California boy, I was like, who the hell are these country bumpkins?
I bet.
So Ed used to say that and he goes, but I love those guys because there's just something about them that was endearing. And from then on, they formed a relationship very similar to Ed and I via phone. They got to know each other on the phone. One time in 71, right when the baseball season started, Ronnie was supposed to meet Ed at the Dodger game, but he didn't show.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, I talked about that sometimes, and I guess it bothered him more than it didn't. He said it did. No, he goes, it's okay. He goes, I halfway expected it, da 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 da. But I think Ed probably wanted to get in there a bit sooner, with those guys instead of 72, because he did get in pretty early. He was in there in 72. So, but really at the start of baseball season in 71, he probably should have been in there. But he tooled around. He packed up after the earthquake and everything. He went to North Carolina and started a new life. He just got out of Sylmar and,
Are you guys, I'm sure you guys had some pretty deep conversations. Did he tell you his version about the night that he left Skynyrd?
Absolutely. I know it all.
Yeah.
I know it all.
You mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think by that point, when was it? The end of May, right near Memorial Weekend. Yeah, that's when it was. They got a new manager, Peter Rudge, and what Ed explained was, and as Craig outlined too, Ed was kind of the guy. Ronnie said it earlier, you know what, you're in charge, you take, right? So Ed kind of was, but when they got Peter Rudge in 75, he really played to Ronnie's ego. And as Ed would say, always, somebody got in Ronnie's ear. So, as close as Ronnie and Ed were, when things were going wrong on the road in 75, because they had a tough time with Nothing Fancy. Craig could allude to this. They wrote that record right then in the studio. There was no pre-stuff like they used to do out at Hell House and all the stuff they used to do, breaking stuff. Ronnie would go, no, break down the drums and bass. Leon and Artie, go, right? He'd break everybody. No, there wasn't any of that now. So there was some tension from those sessions because they were just spot on. You could tell Billy, at the back of the record, it was, that said volumes. Just look at the picture of the back of the album. But I think that carried over into the hell. What they call it, the Hell Tour. What was it, Craig? The
Torture Tour.
Torture Tour. Thank you. And it didn't start off good because what happened was when they got to Pittsburgh, Ronnie had gotten arrested, I guess, with the guitar.
Chuck Flowers is Guitar Roadie.
Yeah, guitar tech up in Detroit or wherever it was, Craig, in Ohio, somewhere. Anyway, so Ed or whatever couldn't get his guitar strings changed. I guess they were old strings, and he couldn't get them changed. They got there late, and they had to go right on. Ronnie basically got there, and they had to go right on. And Ed played the set. I guess it wasn't great. He was having some difficulty. And then Freebird, he broke 2 strings during Freebird. And after the show, he said, Ronnie just climbed his ass. He just got all over it. You're not worth a zit on Alan's ass. And Ed goes, yeah, you're probably right. And, but Ed was still hanging in there, right? But Ed was getting kind of like, Jesus Christ, he's just, and he thinks that a lot of it was attributed to Peter Rudge, coming by, turning him on to shit, filling his head full of this, Ed felt that he was turning Ronnie against him. And it all came to a head that night when I guess shit ran out. Everybody was drunk. And there was a knock at Ed's door at like midnight or whatever it was, 1 a.m. And he opens the door and it's Ronnie and Gary and Alan just barging in. And Ronnie's pissed. where's his shit, man? You know, da 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 da. You know, I guess they were just fucked up, and I guess they started arguing. Ronnie threw Alan against the wall. Alan started crying. Gary was just freaked out, you know, sitting over there in the corner, and he broke a lamp and he put it to Ed's throat. And Ed was like, fuck, man, I don't fucking have shit, and I'm just trying to get some, you know, whatever, as Ed put it. But it wasn't really about that. It was more about, you know, you're not going to take this shit over here, whatever it was. I guess Ronnie had said some things to him that were kind of hurtful. And they left, and so did Ed. Ed packed up all his stuff, and he didn't even tell anybody. He just scooted out during the night. He was in Pittsburgh. But the aftermath of Ed is what is really interesting. I never really embarked on it until recently. You know, I'm an internet buff, just like everybody nowadays. And I wanted to know more about what the hell happened, because he told me a little, but he was very kind of dark about that. He didn't talk a lot about too much. All he said was Ronnie never called him, so he never went back. Gary called, Alan called, but Ronnie never called him, so that's why he didn't went back. But here was Ed at King Resort in New Jersey. King Resort. I guess he says the guy wasn't related to him, actually. The place was called King Camping Resort. And he goes there and he gets a job as a maintenance worker. Yeah.
I knew he was teaching guitar lessons too, a little bit of that.
Well, he was doing a little bit of that too, because Ed always was smart. He could always make money and survive. Ed was a survivor. But that's what he was doing. He told me a couple guys would come through. Hey, aren't you that guitar player for that band?
God.
Yeah, I am. What the fuck are you doing here? You know, I don't play with them anymore. You know, weird. And I know what that's like, because of when I left, you know, in mid '94. It's you come tumbling off the mountain, and you know, you have to reinvent yourself again, and you have to get back on the horse and climb up the mountain again. And you know, so that's what he did. But I felt that was very interesting. Pictures of him, you know, at dinner with his glass, you know, in '75, you know, down there at the King Resort. It's really like what he must have been thinking, you know, hearing his stuff all over the radio and just going, oh shit, I'm a maintenance worker at King, you know, Camping Resort. But, you know, so I you know, you got to hand it to Ed for, you know, and to a certain extent, all of us who were former Skynyrd, you know, members and crew that have sort of had to reinvent themselves and get back on the mountain, as it were.
Did you ever have any?
I asked you earlier because I didn't know why you didn't return, and you had kind of like the same philosophy that Ed did. I got out before it killed me or whatever. So
yeah, I mean, we used to talk about that, Ed and I, because Ed would go, "I'm getting out," you know, before it finally, you know, and I used to say the same. Yeah, me too, dude. I'm not going to let it drag me down. I'll give as much as I can give, which I did. Sick, not sick. The show went on. We went on. We always kicked ass. I feel good about the legacy that I left with the band too. First time we ever played Freebird, I was in the band after Ronnie's death. There were some milestones. So that was in Sacramento on our 1990 tour, right when I joined. But yeah, there were some things that stick out. All the lighters in the Omni, you know. Remember, Craig? God, just a sea of lighters at the Omni in Atlanta. God, never seen anything like that. It'd take your breath away as you're playing Simple Man up there. You're playing Simple. I see my hair starting to go up. You're playing Simple Man.
It kind of started a whole thing in the whole rock culture. You know, it's putting the lighter up. Freebird.
That all started then.
Wow.
Started with Freebird.
I still get that at my local gigs. I do.
Yeah.
And when I go out, Freebird, it'll come from the back of the Freebird, always.
Yeah.
They know who I am. They know, yes, that all started with that. So that's kind of a good feeling too, to know that. But, when it was all said and done, I think with Ed, it was him and I, our time on stage. To me, I lived for that. Both Ed and I would do shit together, not even look at each other, huh, Craig?
Oh,
We
yeah.
would, like he would play and we would stop together. And you would hear dead silence and then start again. Like Ed and I could do that. We knew where each other was going. And it used to freak people out, man. Did you guys rehearse that? People would say, no, we didn't. Bullshit. Yeah, no, he didn't rehearse that. It's all off the cuff. That was my favorite time with it, because then we would call each other after the show or on the bus ride home. Oh yeah, dude, that was so fucking cool what you did. I heard you in my monitor. Oh, dude, that fill you did. Oh, what was that? And by the time we get back to the hotel, we're like, oh, we're back. Oh, cool. So that was Ed too. Ed really got into it. He really got into the music up there. He would spin around and look at me and go, what was that?
So you're so when it came to when Ed left the band and you left the band, Randall left the band, what is your version of how all that happened? Can you touch on that?
Sure. So in 93, I had made a conscious decision to try to not party. And 95%, I did pretty good. Not party before shows. And I was hoping that would kind of catch on a little bit because, we were all we were just kind of too fucked up sometimes. And not to be a hypocrite, because after the shows, I was a maniac. But before shows, I was a lot better that 93 year. But I kind of saw how things were going. Everybody was still just really jacked up. And, we had finally gotten Lily back after a long hiatus from him because of his girlfriend or ever at the time. And I just think management was kind of keeping me more in the dark about stuff, like, and not inviting me. Like Bill Grant invited me to all the meetings. I was part of all the meetings. As a matter of fact, he asked my opinion at the meetings. But with the new management, it wasn't that kind of open door thing. I was left out of a lot of stuff, and especially that late meeting in 93 down in St. Augustine, where I was invited for like one day for like 2 hours of the meeting, even though they were there all week. That was kind of a telltale sign to me. Like, and I'm not saying that in terms like I'm bitter or anything like that. I had some of what was coming to me. I was a fucking maniac, at the same time. But I always played my gig. I was always there, in case unless I missed a plane, which I think happened once, maybe twice. But I was always there, and you could rely on me, and I think they knew that. But that late 93 tour, I kind of had a feeling that might be my last. Even though I was still in the band till about April or May of the next year. We had taken a long break. I think I just kind of looked at myself in early 94 there and just kind of went, I need a break. I really just need, what I should have taken really was a long break. But I'm not so sure I probably would have been let back in the band if I had taken a break. I don't know. Of course, Ed wanted me back, of course, but Ed and I, even Ed and I at that time were, our relationship was getting a little strained. Ed was getting different influences, like Mike Estes had joined, was being around more. So I know they were hanging out a bit more. I guess I felt a bit alienated by the time April of 94 rolled around, May, whatever it was. And Gary and I had a long talk. We talked for 3 hours one rainy night there in April, where I was in Sunland. And literally cried together, laughed, We had a real, just a great talk, and but I had actually my own band too. It was called Custer and Logan. We have my partner Andy Logan was in Little America with me, the band that I was in, and we were getting interest from Capitol, and we had a manager, and we were, so all was not lost. My plan was to get a gig on Capitol and keep going with the Custer and Logan project, writing our own songs, touring ourselves. But we got close, but it didn't happen. And I ended up playing with Becky Barksdale, Michael Jackson's guitar player. And we got a deal with her, me and Andy and a friend of ours, John Paul Tante, who's a bass player. And with Isaac over there at House of Blues label. I love Isaac. He's a great guy, visionary. But what happened once we got signed? She fired all of us, and hired a bunch of, and sure enough, Isaac went, "Where's the guys?" That's the band I signed, and dropped her. So I guess things come around, and I stayed busy that year, but I ended up moving to Nashville and doing another Steve Earle record. So I landed on my feet and stuff, but that's what happened. Gary basically said, "Look, I'm doing this Skynyrd Friends album. I really need your help. I could really use you, your arrangement prowess, your writing prowess. I need your help." And I felt bad because he kind of knew where my heart was going. And when we talked again, he goes, "No," he goes, "I respect you, man." He goes, I know you want to kind of, so it was nothing but love, but I left on my own terms. I wasn't kicked out. I wasn't, I know for a long time there on the internet in the, early 2000s, it was drug problem. Well, you could have said that about any one of us. But that wasn't the reason. It was part of the reason, but in my own mind, but it wasn't the real reason. There was a lot of factors that played into it and stuff, and I think that was just only a part of it.
So were you in any communication with Ed when he left the band? I think him and Randall left about the same time, didn't they, Craig?
Well, Randall left when I left.
Oh, he left when you left?
Yeah, 94. Yep. And then Ed left in 95. Because I moved to Nashville in late 94, early 95, and Ed and I hooked up a couple times. And then that mid 95, I guess he went in for some heart stuff, and he took a hiatus, and look what happened.
Yeah.
Gary didn't want him back.
That's the same thing you were worried about.
That's the same thing I was worried about, and I knew that it probably wouldn't happen. It didn't happen for Ed King.
Yeah, a lot of people are curious as to why Randall left, and it's almost kind of like people don't want to talk about it. I don't know if you can share that with us, or is there anything that you can tell us?
I don't know enough to talk about it. And Randall and I still talk all the time. We send each other stuff. How you doing, brother? I'm doing good. And he's with World Classic Rockers and stuff. I'm with Valley Sons, but I don't know. But I found it, at the time I went, oh God. I remember going, oh wow, Randall left too. Oh wow. I was a little surprised. I'll be honest. For Randall, I was. But, at the same time, maybe Mr. Randall had kind of had enough with the charade, because some of it was becoming a charade. And I think he felt alienated. I can't speak for Randall. But but maybe there was a little of that going on with him. I don't know. I can only speak for me, but so I don't know. But I did find it a little odd at the time that we had all kind of just bailed. I think we got out like crazy. We got out before it killed us, man. We just we all kind of bailed before it really kind of got bad, because I know from what I hear from some other people that were close to them, for the next 4 years, it was pretty bad.
you and I had a great conversation. You know, I like to talk to people before they come on and stuff. And I kind of told you, well, man, we better stop here because, you know, we want to let that, those stories kind of ring out as a story that's just been told. But you got a great story about Peter Rudge and Billy. Something about Billy punching Peter Rudge or Peter Rudge punching Billy. Who was it?
No. This is Bill Graham.
Oh, Bill Graham. I'm sorry, I got that mixed up.
So
Okay.
it was the 74 Who tour. And Craig, you were there. I know you were there.
No. I didn't do the Who tour. No.
Okay. So it was right after that.
Right after the Who tour, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So they were there, and I guess Billy explains it as he was out front, sound check, but it was late, from what I recall. I'm trying to remember what he said. But they opened the doors, and people flooded in. And Billy got caught in the, and Bill Graham, who could be sort of temperamental sometimes, he was there on the speaker, I guess, getting some stuff together. And Billy came up to the front, and Bill Graham just looked up and went, "What the hell?" and punched him right in the And Billy goes, I'm in the skin. And Bill Graham felt really bad. "Oh, Billy, I'm sorry, Billy. Bill Graham had that really kind of, he had that kind of Bronson, kind of Charles Bronson accent, a little bit, and Billy, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, man. He's like, Jesus Christ. Only for Billy to get hit, after the plane crash too. Billy liked to tell that story. Gene punched him in the nose or something.
Gene.
Yeah, it's in my book because that's what Billy told me. I go, "Billy, really?" I mean, we stayed up all night. Craig, I think you stopped by that.
Yeah, that was on the bus. I think that happened.
Well, me, Billy, and Leon were in my hotel room. That's where that was after rehearsal one night. And I kind of remember, Craigie, you stopping by. And we were all partying, and I asked them. I asked them about it because I wanted to know. And it was heavy. All night, just heavy. Super heavy vibe. I almost felt like we were being watched, like there were other entities in the room. Anyway, it was weird. It was lights flickering and dimming, and there was some weird. It was really weird night. But yeah, poor Billy. I go, only to get punched in the nose again. He goes, "Yeah," and I didn't even have my nose. Billy was walking around trying to find it. And I guess he came on Gene, and of course Gene was just, for Billy. Billy, I go, "Billy, poor you, man. You didn't even have a nose, and you got punched in the nose." Billy's like, put it back on. And
Gene told me the story after the plane crash. Gene came to, and he woke up, and he kind of crawled out from underneath the wing, and he saw Billy standing there, and he went to go to Billy, like, "Help me," and Billy took his foot and just pushed him back under the wing, and Gene was like, "What the hell did he do that for?" And later on he asked him, and Billy said, "Because my nose was hanging off and I didn't want you to rip it off the rest of the way."
Oh my God.
That's what Gene told me. That was crazy. So he was like, "Yeah, I always wondered why, Billy did that." And I finally got to talk to him, after everything had settled down later on, after they'd all got out of the hospital. And that's what Billy said. He goes, "Yeah, man, he's afraid that somebody was going to yank his nose off and he would lose his nose."
Yeah. Well,
What's that? Hey, tell that story about Jimi Hendrix and Ed King. That was a cool one.
Well, I guess I don't know where Ed was. 68. We're talking like Jimmy used to play some kind of trippy venues by then. 69, right? He was playing like that place in Hawaii. There was only like 500 people in the audience. He played these kind of different kind of venues. So I know he was doing that, and of course Ed was still with Strawberry Alarm Clock. I forget where they were, but there was Jimmy restringing his guitar with a case of Snickers, and he ate the whole case. So I remember Ed just going, "Wow."
Oh yeah.
But you touched on your book. Do you want to kind of uh, elaborate on your book a little more?
Sure. I mean, I've got a couple of tentative working titles that I'm still working through. The book's done. I'm just trying to find a literary agent and work with, and I hope to have it out this year. It's really just about the time I had in the band. It touches a little bit on the pre stuff, not too much. I had to cut all that stuff out. I had to cut out a lot of juicy stuff too, unfortunately. I guess it was deemed too offensive. But yeah, so I go through pretty much my whole time in the band, joining. I try to include great quotes like Clayton Johnson saying, "Well, you're in Lynyrd Skynyrd now, son." I landed in Jacksonville in 1990, so stuff like that. Me chasing that wild turkey with Steve Lockhart that one morning. I guess I could elaborate a little about that. We were recording Last Rebel, and of course, Lockhart's a great guy. I love Steve Lockhart. He was my drum tech. He was Artimus's drum tech. I kept him because he's just a great guy, great musician, and a great drum tech, and a good friend. And we were tying one on one night, and it was morning, and we're out there playing guitars and drinking more. We see this wild turkey. He goes, "I double dare you to go chase that turkey." And I go, "All right." I took off my shirt and I made beeline toward that turkey. And there he ran. Into the forest I went. And then he stopped. And I stopped. And he looked like he was, and he turned around and started chasing me. And I'm like, I'm coming down. All Lockhart saw was me coming around this wild turkey chasing. Feathers all ruffled. I'm driving. Help! I'm climbing the thing.
Yeah, those things are mean, man. They're mean.
They're mean.
Yeah, I've had that happen before.
I didn't realize that. It was almost think about what happened to Johnny Cash and his ostriches. Remember? He got attacked by, he nearly got killed, Johnny Cash. But that's all that was running through my head was like, oh my God, it's going to be Johnny Cash all over again. But
you have a name for your book yet, Kurt?
Got a couple of names for it.
Oh, you hadn't pinned one down yet.
I think I know what it's going to be called. It's going to be called Skinned Alive. SKYNN. The drum skin. Oh. Yeah.
Cool.
That's what it's going to be. Wow. Skinned Alive. My time with Lynyrd Skynyrd.
You're kind of like you're trying to decide about the pictures because they're such a pain in the ass. You got to get permission for all of them. So
it's either that or you're going to get sued later on, and I don't need any of that. So
do you talk to Sharon King? She's having the same problem, I think, with her.
So I've reached out to some people, Ian over there across the pond and some other people, and they have some picks for me. You too, Craig. If you've got any, you could, No,
I'm just. Do you
strike a deal on the side?
Are you still in contact with Sharon King?
I am actually, but I haven't talked to her. It's been a while since I talked to her. I think it's been a couple of years actually.
She's kind of doing the same thing. She's kind of looking for pictures and wanting to use pictures that she can get problems.
Yeah. So it's a problem because, like as Griff said, you can get into some real trouble, and I know she doesn't want any of that, and I don't want any of that. So that's why I'm asking if anybody has any pictures that they're willing to share in my book. Absolutely, please get.
I thought I had some pictures with you when you were in the band. This picture that's behind me is with you in the band. This is cut right there. Yeah. But all the pictures that I took are of the '87 tour, that beginning tour. I didn't really take any pictures during the '91 tour. I don't know why, but I just didn't.
Well, 91, 92, 93. I
took I got a lot of pictures of the 87, 88, 87, basically, the beginning, the first tribute tour.
Yeah.
Well, Kurt, when you get your book finished, you'll have to come back on and plug it, and let us know how we can get it and stuff like that.
We'll definitely.
Let's talk about your current band. You know, the Valley Sons. When did you start that band?
So this band started about almost 10 years ago. We were called Custer Sims Meyer, and a three-piece, very cool roots rock, classic rock, Hendrixy fills, kind of bluesy rock, southern rock too, if you will. And we did a couple of records, and we've played in New York. We've played all around. We haven't done any major tours, but we do a lot of local touring in the state, and we've done some out of state, like I said. And our guitar player Dan Meyer, left in 2017. So then we became Valley Sons. I actually had moved out here to the Valley, it's called, here in LA. And Bob, my partner, Robert Sims, lives in the Valley. He plays bass and sings too. And we write our own songs. We also do a lot of cover songs, classic rock stuff, Bad Company, Skynyrd, Queen, all the cool stuff, Cream. And we've done now a couple of records on the Under the Valley Sons thing. This is our new album.
Oh, cool.
Valley Sons 2. And you'll be able to get that everywhere here in about just a week or two. It should did all the stuff that I had to do to get it out there, and it's so it'll be on Spotify, Raps, all that stuff, all music platforms here in a couple of weeks.
So you mostly play locally around where you live? Then you don't travel much?
We actually do travel a lot. We get down to San Diego. This month in particular, we're going up north. We're doing Morro Bay. We've gotten as far north as Sacramento, Visalia, Vegas, New York. We're trying to expand a little bit more and get our name out there a bit more. We do a lot of whatever, bars, clubs, casinos, and mix in our original music with the cover music. Our shows are usually about 3 to 4 hours long. We play about 36 to 40 songs. And I sing behind the drum kit. And Bob sings too, so we do harmonies, and I do a lot of the lead vocals. And we have a great guitar player, Martin Echeverry. Good guy, really solid guy. He's from Argentina, and he's kind of rounded out our lineup here. So yeah, we're really stoked. We've managed to stay busy with it. I meet a lot of great people out there who are Skynyrd fans and remember the old days. I sign a lot of autographs still, and it's pretty rewarding. And now it's obviously it's for the love of it, and that's why I do it, because I love entertaining people, and it's certainly not about the money. And it's really just about spending time with the guys, playing our music, and entertaining people. So.
Can you remember the last conversation you had with Gary Rossington, and what was your thoughts about his passing?
So I was really torn up a bit about Gary, just because we were so close, as Craig said earlier, and we did some crazy shit together. I mean, man, indifferent, I think, is the word I felt, because I hadn't talked to him in a long time, and so I felt like there was a lot of things left unsaid, even though we were okay with it. I saw him when I was in Nashville, when Nikki and I moved out there, because we moved there in '95 after I left Skynyrd, and I got with Steve Earle again, and I did the I Feel All Right album. And I did that world tour until '97 and stuff. So they were out there rehearsing, I want to say '96, maybe, something like that. And they invited me down. Dale came over with Annie, I think. So that was cool. I got to go to the studio and see them and say hi. that was probably the last time I talked to Gary. Now Ed and I talked, for a while up until about 2016 or whatever it was, 2017, because I knew he was going through a lot. But Gary's passing hit me hard just because all the memories flooded back, and all the great times we had, funny times we had, and all the great music we wrote. And really, Gary and I had some really trippy things happen when we would hang out sometimes, especially when he started talking about Ronnie. We had some lightning bolts come right through his house into his living room.
Wow.
A couple of times when we were, talking about Ronnie.
Crazy.
Yeah. Ronnie was still around Gary. For sure.
I think he's still around now.
Well, there's a vibe. Look, one thing, there's a vibe. When you land in Jacksonville, Skynyrd is what you think. And I think when I landed, I know Clayton was sort of not taken aback, but he was very intrigued by my decision to go by Orange Park Cemetery first. I needed to get a true vibe for the band before I joined. And what better way than to go talk to Ronnie and Steve and Cassie. And I wanted to go see Alan too, but we ended up going right to the studio after that. But I got over to see Alan. And of course, Ed and I had a real trippy experience over there one night. Ed and I were riding around. Sometimes we'd ride around and talk, party a little bit, what have you. Talk about shit. So I used to like to ask him about the old days. What was it like? What was the feeling? Kind of questions you're
right.
Because I wanted to know. And he loved to tell the story about you too, Craig. Yeah, we were up in Ohio, and I think one of the guys who were walking by, he wanted some pot, and Craig goes, "Yeah, here you go." Give him a bag of pot. But the story is great because Ed still had a lot of affection and good memories even about that stuff. But Ronnie not calling him bugged him, and is kind of, as we went through the night, we found ourselves at the cemetery. I'm like, wow, what are you doing here? And I don't know. I'm like, okay. And this was like early on. When I joined. I'm like, oh fuck, what's Ed doing here? It was just him and I. Later.
A lot of people do that. I've talked to a lot of people do that. Yeah.
Oh man. And we got behind the fence. We parked his truck. We walked in there because his grave was right there.
Oh yeah.
It was sort of up front there to the left. And I'll never forget this. Ed just pouring out his heart, like, why the fuck did you, like, he just opened up. And as soon as he did that, it started fucking pouring on us.
Wow.
And Ed goes, I loved you, man. I fucking loved you. Why didn't you call me? That he just kind of like opened up. And I was just standing there kind of going, whoa.
That's kind of a surreal thing right there.
So that was real heavy. And I remember walking up to Ed, I'm like, Ed, you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm okay. He's like, fuck. I think it bothered him that he never had that reconciliation with Ronnie that he wanted.
Yeah, there's a friend of Alan's, Alan Collins, a friend of his, Steve Reynolds, and we had him. I did an on the road with him, and he told me one time Alan told him, pull over to the graveyard, and he went and laid down on top of his wife's grave and was crying like a baby in the middle of the night. And he said it was just crazy. He goes, so a lot of people do that. It's
well,
pretty
Alan,
crazy stuff.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that whole situation.
Well, we had quite a few questions, and I think you've just about answered everything on that list over there, Kurt. And we touched on a lot of stuff. This is a great podcast for you Skynyrd fans. I mean, this is some really heavy stuff. Great, as we call and Mike Estes coined it skin formation, you know.
He's great. Miss Mike a lot. He's a good man.
But Craig, yeah, so I think we've probably got all we can get out of Kurt. I don't know. Kurt, you got anything else?
Well, God, I mean, we could go on all night, right? Just have me on again, and I'll.
It'd probably be better if we did that, you know.
Yeah, because I got a lot more, you know. But yeah, no, it's been great. It's been great talking to you guys. Really good questions. Appreciate all the fans. I still, you know, love hearing from you guys online and stuff. And Craig, thanks for reaching out, brother. You know, you're always.
I've been wanting to reach out to you for a long time. You're like the first real impotent person I've ever read to. Yeah, you know, kind of like rock star-ish kind of person. You know, we've had roadies and stuff on, but yeah, you're a real musician, you know.
And I'm a huge fan, man. You're one hell of a drummer. I've learned a lot here just, you know, kind of studying up on you and looking at some of your YouTube stuff. And like I was saying, you guys got to see that Stormbringer. I mean, he's got a great band, but you nailed that drum part on that Deep Purple song, man.
Oh, thanks.
Lazy. You know, I love that song. When I was a kid, man, I had Machine Head, you know.
Oh, that was we all did. Yeah, that was the record. God.
I mean, I wore that thing out till you had to stick a matchbook in the side of it so it would track right, you know.
With the days, man. Get that thing in there, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
That was a fun project to do. I'm still really good friends with all those guys, and Steve, the guitar player in Stormbringer, Steve Lavoie. I did a record with him. That's I think coming out soon, or it might be out. Anyway, took a long time to make, but he's real heavy. He likes the heavy stuff, the heavy riff stuff. So that was a fun project to do. But
and Craig and I, we kind of have a kid called Zach Lane, and we're sort of mentoring the kid, and you know, we're trying to get him like a resume built. You know, he played with Derek Hess, you know, and if somehow I could get him out to California, I mean, I'll drive him out. Like I told you, I wanted to go up the Pacific Coast Highway, and I'd like to bring him out. Maybe I can get him up, do a set with you or something, you know, throw that on his resume. What do you think? Could we swing that?
Well, yeah, I mean, have him come up and play a few tunes for sure.
This kid is spot on. He can play Alan, Gary. He can play anything. He's a note for note guy, and you'll love him.
Yeah.
We'll send you some links. Zach Lane.
20 years old.
Yeah, 20 years old.
Oh, he's 20?
Yeah, 20 or 21.
Got a great name, man. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, right.
In talking with him and exploring that further for sure.
Okay, well, thanks for that, and he'll be glad to hear that. And what was that name you gave Zach, Craig? I forget what it was.
The name I gave Zach?
Yeah, you messed up his name.
Oh, Puppylicious. What's his name or her name, Craig?
This is Leon.
Oh.
And he's got Wicker too. I don't know if you know the Wicker story about Ron.
I do. I actually do know the Wicker story. I've had.
Yeah, I got Leon and Wicker.
That's the way to do it.
That's Leon 2, right, Craig? Leon 2. First Leon. Leon 1 died. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. This is Leon 2. That's right. Yeah. So yeah. Hey, like I said, you want more? I got a lot more stories. Have me on again, and we'll do this.
Oh man, we appreciate it. Yeah, we do, because you know we try to get our subscriptions up because we donate all of our money that we get from that, and we get donations and we give them all to the plane crash survivors. You know, even Leslie Hawkins, she gets a cut of it. You know, and
good.
Which I wanted to mention, I just got word that Mark Howard, who he was a lighting guy, and he was on the plane, and he's in the hospital. And just to tell everybody, he's definitely going to lose his leg, and I think they're going to take it off tomorrow. So we want to wish Mark Howard a fast recovery. You know, he's been dealing with that, and I think he just wants to get past it and, you know, get well. So we love you, Mark, if you're listening, man. You know, prayers go out to you, and your girlfriend is so awesome keeping in touch with me and keeping me informed. So you guys remember those donations, man. They help those guys, and and anything you can do. They're kind of dropping off a little bit, but Craig and I have some ideas, and so and people like you coming on, Kurt, helps a lot. So we thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. Anything I could do to help that situation is
all right, Craig. We ready to wrap it up? It was a great
let's wrap it up. This has been podcast 95 of the Stoned Roadie Show. And I guess not to sing or nothing. I guess you're going to put all the stuff on there. But
I'll put that on the end.
Yeah, he'll add the singing part on, But anyways, like I always end up saying, happy trails to you until we meet again, and happy trails to you, and then keep token until then. And until next time on the Stoned Roadie Show, what's the next one?
May the good Lord take a liking to you.
Oh, yeah, that's it. May the good Lord take a liking to you. And cut.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep token until then. Yeah, the Road Stoney Show.